Now you're probably wondering why Muhammad Ali is up there. Muhammad Ali was a boxer, right? But if you remember, he was also a poet. I mean, he said a lot of interesting things as he was spouting his wisdom to everybody. And one of the things he said was, if you haven't learned the meaning of friendship, you really haven't learned anything. He's put his finger right on one of the most important things in maintaining longevity. Chinese people believe socializing is extremely important. They believe having friends and family around them is extremely important. The average American has 1.5 close friends that they go through their whole life with. The average Chinese has 6 friends, close friends, that they go through their whole life with. They believe that having friends is extremely important. The longevity villagers, usually in the Chinese community, you're pretty close to your family. So it's not like here we kind of go to Florida and the family's up somewhere else. But they tend to be there constantly. But they also have extended families, and they have other villagers. And they're always sitting around talking to each other. I mean, all day. You know, we might find it a little irritating because they don't ring the doorbell. They just walk in and talk to you. But it's a way of socializing. They do not live solitary lives. And in the rest of China, that's almost true also. And I'll give you an interesting example. This is a street in Shanghai. It's probably the most fun street and the most popular street in that giant city. It's called Nanjing Road. They have blocked off the cars so that it's only pedestrians on that street. And there's literally hundreds of shops and restaurants and entertainment facilities. It's really a fun place to go. But it doesn't open until around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So one day I was staying in a hotel in Shanghai, and I was a few blocks away from Nanjing Road. And I decided to have breakfast outside of the hotel instead of a normal hotel breakfast. And I think it was 6:30 in the morning, and I got up and I walked a couple blocks, and I got to Nanjing Road, and I hung a left, and I couldn't believe what I saw. There was a party going on at 6:30 in the morning. Older people had brought loudspeakers into the street, and they were dancing. Remember, there's nobody there at 6:30 in the morning, so they're free to do whatever they want. If I look a little farther, I see people doing Tai Chi to music. If I look a little farther, I see them doing Qigong, which is a breathing exercise, which is good for you. I look a little farther, and I see people just sitting on benches, just talking, just having a great time. They're constantly socializing. And these are people in their 80s and 90s that are doing it. China's a big place. It has a lot of big restaurants because they have a lot of people, right? When we think we go into a restaurant, we think it's a big restaurant. Their restaurants are 5 times as big. And in our restaurants, we have little tables, right? We have these little square tables. And if you bring a bunch of friends, they'll put a table next to it. Then you can have 4 or 6 people. They line these tables up. And that's how our restaurants are. That's not in China. In China, they're huge round tables that seat 8, 10, 12 people. And they're all full. I mean, you walk in those restaurants, even at breakfast, you see those tables are full of people. They're having a ball, talking to each other. And they're not just people the same age. You'll always see younger people and older people mixed together. I've done business meetings in China where I'm there with a couple of Americans doing business over there. And I've got somebody I'm dealing with and maybe a couple of his associates. And we say, let's go have lunch together and finish this conversation. And the guy will say, well, do you mind if I bring my mother? Now, who would do that in a business meeting, right? Or do you mind if I bring my mother and my grandmother and maybe a couple of kids, you know? And so we're sitting around this table. All of a sudden, what I thought was going to be 4 people are 8 or 10 people. And we're sitting around for 2 hours, and we're having this banquet, and we're having a great time. It's not only a business meeting, it's a social event. Every day is a social event in China. And I go over there for a month at a time, and when I came back here, it's kind of boring, you know, we're not doing all that. I think what we learned from that is socializing is very important, and scientists agree that may be the link to longevity, not living a solitary life. There's something about face-to-face communication that releases neurotransmitters in your body that are good for you. They reduce stress, they kill pain, they induce pleasure. And you only get that from face-to-face talking to somebody. You might say, well, I'm on Facebook and I have 100 friends. Doesn't count. I mean, it doesn't count unless you're looking at them, unless you're actually personally with them. So I guess you need to ask yourself, well, how many people do I talk to every day? It's important. It's a way of extending your lifespan. There's a line in Winnie the Pooh that says, you can't just stay in your corner of the forest waiting for them to come to you. You have to go to them sometimes. And I think that's good advice. We have to broaden our circle of friends.